Audible. Green Eyes Chapter 98. The gentle slope upwards had finally ended with the last strand of trees when Lyra felt her back pinched roughly. The force of it threw her body forward, and the only way to keep herself from face planting was to let go of Esther's hand. Though she was tired, the remaining strength in her good arm wasn't enough, and the cold snow kissed her cheek and forehead. The echo of the gunshot bounced around the woods as she breathed heavily across the crystal surface. She would have laid there, complacently breathing, if not for Esther's whimper. Despite the incredible blanket of sleep descending upon her, Lyra pushed herself upwards with her one useful arm. She expected to be shot again, but whoever had done it the first time didn't do it again. Her hand reached behind her, thinking Esther was there, but her fingertips felt the rough surface of bark. In her tumble, Lyra had fallen forward in front of a large trunk. That was the reason the person had not shot her again. That was the reason the person had not shot her again. As there she whispered, "Lyra." The girl answered back, her voice filled with sob. Lyra reached her hand out to her left, found the slick nylon jacket the girl wore, and pulled the girl to her. "Are you hurt?" Lyra looked up. Esther's blind eyes tried to make perfect contact with Lyra's, but weren't aligned perfectly. No. Esther hiccuped. The tears on the girl's face were too much for Lyra's heart. Some part of Lyra had believed she'd make it out of this alive with the girl. She'd envisioned the two of them far away, somewhere warmer, inside, and safe, in one of those 1,000 franchised hotels, watching television and eating Chinese food. It had never occurred to her that, like Keith, Lyra would fail this girl too. The misery of the truth was too much to bear. She turned her eyes away from the girl's crying face and looked ahead. Whether it was a mirage or not, the cabin Lyra saw across an empty stretch of snow pasture gave rose of hope through the spreading dismality within her. Lyra could not make out the trek with the girl. Her body was losing the blood that was so needed to work that machine that was her. Even at that very moment, deep sleepness was crawling over her despair, muddling it, making it less than what it would have been. Go, Esther, making it less than what it had been before. Go, Esther, Lyra said, turning the girl about with the little strength she had in her good arm. Run straight. Lyra felt the girl trying to turn back, but she held her arms stiff, unforgiving. "No," Lyra said. "To the cabin, hurry." The girl cried loudly. Her whole body shook with it. She really is only a child, Lyra thought. How could we do such things to a child? I don't want to go, Esther cried out, trying to turn and face Lyra. But Lyra would not unstiffen her arm. Go, child, Lyra said, this time with firm and harshness etched in her voice. For your life, run, damn it. And then she did something she didn't like at all. She shoved little Esther forward. The girl stumbled a little, but didn't fall. She looked back, her face tear-streaked. Her eyes didn't even line up with Lyra. They were off by a few feet. Go, Lyra said once more, trying to hold back her own tears. The girl turned and started to run out into the pasture. Lyra watched her until she was 10, 20, and 30 yards away. She would have watched her until she reached the cabin, but then she heard the heavy crunching of approaching steps. They came to a stop, just on the same side of the tree she leaned back against. Lyra could hear the man's breathing. She wondered if it was the same man who murdered her family and Esther's and took Keith's life too. She wondered if she didn't bother to look to her left and up. She didn't need to see his face. Her eyes returned to little Esther's, fleeing across the snow. She didn't die believing this girl had a chance. Even if she didn't believe it, she died believing she didn't need to see his face. Her eyes returned to little Esther, fleeing across the snow. She died believing the girl had a chance. Even if she didn't believe it, Lyra would lie to herself and say she would. To her left, she heard the sound of the handgun being cocked.